Okay, and to close things out for us today is James Otter. James likes to take people on a strange journey through the mouth of madness and into something close to home, close to where you lay your head. James spends his days going to extensive lengths to make new offbeat material. Recently, he has focused on writing responses to old horror movies like Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Nightmare on Elm Street. He keeps it dark and unnaturally funny. Stick around and hold on to your seat for this dark poet, James Otter.
Come on, James! You heard the man. To give you some background, I wrote this one during the lunar eclipse. You asked me a question. Do I remember what it looked like? Can you speak up? Remember what the full moon looked like before the incident? So many questions. Your brain must be like a sponge. You need something real nasty to clean up. Soak in this answer. You might not have been born yet, but when I was in my mid-20s, my father gave me a job at this hydroelectric station. I scrubbed equipment down and kept logs of the machines. That job of mine paid decent wages. $17 an hour is nothing to kiss a blind horse over. I kept my head up and my eyes forward. On my chest I had tattooed, Deus Ex Machina. Do you know what that means? It means God in the machine. It was a bad decision, but worthwhile. Anyway, I can tell by your fidgeting. This story isn't grabbing you. That's okay. We're not to the life-changing part yet. I was working until the wee hours of the day. Maybe 10 or so of them hours. I decided to step out for a smoke. From what I could recollect, it was about 3:33 in the morning. On the break room screen, I saw something about a lunar eclipse. The first family of the lunar colony had beamed down a distress signal. I hadn't been paying much attention. I was more focused on maintaining the bronze floor. Then there was this loud ping! It was the emergency something or other. Of course, me and the other guys had to take a look outside. The smoking section was lit up with that obnoxious blinking porch light, but then it burned out and we could see the full moon. Past our fence, we could hear some teenagers howling like mock coyotes. It sounded like a couple people, but then it got louder. The moon looked like an eyeball with no iris, no pupil, none of that eye stuff, more eye-shaped. Luna was being consumed by what looked like smoky tentacles. I laughed and dropped my lucky strike and started yowling. But I couldn't stop staring at the moon. My break had ended maybe 20 minutes or so ago. All the power around me had gone out. For maybe 5 more minutes, I stood there, barking and howling and had to resist the urge to tear my clothes off and maybe my skin. At that point in my life, I had never felt more alive. Dark doesn't describe it, though. It was thick outside, thick like my spine. In the sky, there were bright tracers of light. Hundreds of thousands of them. The moon had turned red, and then orange. Then it was dark in the center. I bit down on my lip, making a nasty wound, howling in pain. This was my fault. I bumped into the door and slammed it open. My foreman was right there. He was furious, so furious he wasn't making any sense. He kept saying, "We make more than living wage. Capitalism is our cage. Murder's all the rage. If you don't have a living wage, the moon is coming down, the moon is coming down, the moon is coming down." I could hear his neck snap. And his midsection was tearing itself apart. I turn away from him, and there are multiple black centers in the moon. It's floating apart in 3 different directions. It had to be courage that pushed that madman out of the way, with a burnt-out exit sign and no light on top of that. I just barely made it out. I felt crazy. Crazy enough to survive a hanging. Crazy enough to knock some sense into whoever got in my way home. The sky was full of comets. At the time, I decided that the end of the world was a very beautiful moment. The streets were crawling with lunatics. Some of these delusionals had broken guitars and accordions over their heads. The police were firing their guns sporadically, taking off their pants and beating stop signs into tiny splinters. I tried to hide, but the madness drove me to yell out my name. And what scared me the most? Oh, now you're listening. These folks were biting their fingers off, eating god-awful things and fighting. Many people were violently fucking. But me, I was just trying to get home. And the moon, or what used to be the moon, was in 10 to 20 to maybe a few hundred pieces. I cried for all the poets and the songwriters and painters, astronauts. I cried for the future. And then it hit. Or should I say, they hit me. I hit back. I hit back hard. I impounded the sneaky bastard's skull with my boot. And I swear on my missing teeth, their fractured body jumped back up. And when they came at me again, their head was obscured by bloody measuring tape and stringy, corned beef-looking muscle. This chaotic lunacy felt inescapable. So I broke into the library and barricaded the door with books, avoiding gunfire and maniacs. And lunatics, or as we call them today, super slummers. That's how I survived. And that's where I was during the incident. Thank you for asking. Care for a cup of coffee or a smoke? Alright, I got one more. And then I'm getting off of this floor to another floor that's down by the stairs, past the stairs. Enough of your belly aching. That blizzard ain't going to take a break. So you shouldn't either. We need 10 cords of wood. As well, protect this cured goods. The wolves are looking for a treat tonight. I built this house with my sweat and blood. I worked every day to the land with nothing but an old wooden spoon. You heard me, I tilled the land with nothing but an old wooden spoon. And the hopes that maybe something good would grow here. It's fall, and already 2 feet of snow has made itself comfortable. As a family, we have to stand together, shivering all night. You need to keep the fire lit, or else we will freeze, Donner Party style. The desert has always been a dry and arid place. Underneath the soil, little seeds starve and never sprout. We had to eat our horses and our cattle. The market shut down with the rest of town. Even when it was open, Seneca struggled. with its one tourist attraction, the Great Flat, the place where delusions spring to life out of the dust. Why, not even 5 years ago, back when it was legal to celebrate with live music and beer, once a year, 10 million rich creative engineers would build massive structures dedicated to the sun and moon. Hundreds of thousands of people would hold hands in a large circle, glowing white hat like the end of a plasma torch. They opened up another dimension, bringing in water towers from far-off cities, pineapples from the isolated peninsula of Kaumori. My father told me these stories before the Great Rift of Plains, before the cold came in covering this arid land. While the other residents froze to death, we struggled on. Some piece of magic brought us the bare minimum we needed to live. Far past our tiny cabin, there's a place we call the Grande Blanca of the Lost Madre. You need to keep chopping that wood. I can hear the yelping sound. The alphas are eating the omegas. It is important we bolt the door tonight. You will forgive me for rushing you one day. I would help you with these things, but my back does not allow such things. When I close my eyes, I can hear a voice. It beckons me to push you harder. You think me mad? We both know running away from here is dangerous. I didn't build this cabin. I just closed my eyes and listened. The voice is our protector. It guided me here. Come on now, get inside. The snow, some say, is like acid. It's drier than wet snow. Touching this snow would make a person itchy enough to scratch until bloody. The spirit of my broken heart dictates that we never surrender. That we hold out until we become something powerful. You will be stronger than me when you're older, but you must bolt the door. You must close the curtains, lest they come to life. This desert is magic, a natural, neutral magic that will show you where you need to go. It will test your psyche like it did mine. Don't think me cold. There isn't really snow outside. It is a curse from those who live below the mountain and trace paths in the subconscious and superego of the remaining populace. They cannot see the blank wall of the lost mother, yet they play with our world like dominoes and Jenga, stacking up the buildings, tapping into our smallest weaknesses. The storm will pass tomorrow, but the time it takes will be altered. It will feel like 10 years have passed and you will see me fall. I will never stop talking and I will lose my sense of this and that, this and that, this and that. But for now, you must trust my sternness. I understand the ether, that psychic miasma that will force your demons here like it did mine. We are rifters. Many other beings were made into monsters, representations of their core animus. Keep working, and you will be strong. And when the window blows open and sucks me out into the sea of darkness, you will be stronger than you feel. So stay courageous. This trouble will pass. For now, rest on the inside. Keep moving on the outside. I must lay down till the wind seeps through and the wolves take the forms of men. Tragedy is the ultimate test of resilience. I know you have what it takes. Otherwise, I wouldn't have brought you here.
Woo!
So, I'd like to say something about my poems. They're all connected in this little crazy universe that I call Numerica. And guess what? There's no book yet, but it'll be there eventually.
Woo! Yeah!
How Happy Hanukkah if you celebrate that holiday.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for staying, those of you who did. It went a bit over, but we're doing well. Please eat up all the food that's out there so I don't have to carry it away. Thank you.